सर्विस बेस्ड कंपनी के लिए आज इंटरव्यू दिया था, तो उसमें पहला ही राउंड था और काफ़ी टेक्निकल और मैनेजरियल और जो भी लीड पोजीशन के लिए होता है वैसा इन्होंने लिया था। थोड़ा सा जूनियर प्रोफाइल लगा, इजी सा ही था इंटरव्यू। तो अब एक बस टेक्निकल कोडिंग राउंड के नाम पे एक फॉर्म बनवा लिया था उन्होंने, ज़्यादा उन्होंने भी मेरे को कोई चैलेंज नहीं दिया। तो वो भी मतलब उतना शायद इंटरेस्टेड नहीं थे कि मतलब फंसा दें इस कैंडिडेट को। तो उन्होंने बहुत ईजी सा ही टास्क दिया था, एक फॉर्म बनाओ, उसकी वैल्यूज उठा के फिर किसी और कंपोनेंट में डिस्प्ले करा दो, उतना ही काम था। स्टाइल करना था सीएसएस वगैरह, वो सब तो बहुत आसान था। और कोड सैंड बॉक्स पे था, तो थोड़ी सी इंटेलिजेंस कोड सैंड बॉक्स की मेरे को मिल गई थी। वो मैंने उन्हें बोला था, मैंने इंटेलिजेंस देखा, बट दे वर एग्री। और इसके बाद शुरू का 1 मिनट मैंने इसमें से काटा है और आखिरी के मैंने 3-4 मिनट काटे हैं जो सैलरी नेगोशिएशंस वगैरह कर रहे थे। आई थिंक दिस इज द गाय हु इज गोइंग टू टेक अ डिसीजन। तो ये ही डिसीजन लेगा और शायद मेरे को लग नहीं रहा अब अगला कोई राउंड होगा। ये राउंड अगर ठीक उन्हें लगा जो कि वो कह के गए हैं कि अच्छा था, तो मेरे को लग रहा है आने वाले दिन में शायद वो क्लोज कर देंगे। अभी भी कुछ कैंडिडेट्स पाइपलाइन में होंगे उनके, तो उनको पहले निपटा के फिर देख लेंगे। whosoever will be the best, they will that he will become the part of their team। तो ऐसा हो जाएगा। और अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस था, आसान सा ही था। क्या एक्सपीरियंस क्या था, वो तो पूरे दिन कहानी बोलता ही रहता हूँ जो मैंने अभी इन्हें सुनाई। देख लीजिएगा और इनपुट जो भी होंगे आप बताना, उसमें लिखना, क्वेश्चन पूछना, मैं कोशिश करूंगा आंसर देने की। और अगर मैंने कहीं गलत दिया हो तो उसे करेक्ट भी करना आप कमेंट बॉक्स में। हाँ, और ठीक है, देखते हैं। So I am Vinit Kumar, overall for 15 years of experience in UI development. I work across different domain, different profiles. Domain primarily work on BFSI and several other FMCG as well, several other domains. But 70-80% is from BFSI background, where insurance and banking systems are primarily I was focused on. And the roles and responsibility, so sometimes I work as an individual contributor, sometimes I work as a lead, sometimes I work as a senior lead. So it depending upon what role the company or the project is offering me. So I am flexible with that. And the technical stack is very much UI oriented. That includes HTML, CSS, JavaScript based frameworks such as Angular, React, and Redux Toolkit, Material UI, Bootstrap, Tailwind, SCSS preprocessor, and I know about Docker, and I have worked with a few 5-6 services from AWS as well.
Okay, cool. That's good. So, my next question is around how much time, when you said you also lead the project, do you do project management in that leading part, or you
Yeah, I
lead
do
a team?
contribute. I
You
do
also
contribute in user stories as well. So I also get the number of user story points to cover, and not in every project, but yeah, most of the projects. Sometimes it is completed towards the Scrum Master role or a different project management role. But primarily, I work in 50-50% techno-functional roles.
Okay, okay. Because this role that I'm talking about is purely technical, because we wanted a tech lead who can, build an app from ground up with all his experience in the front-end side technologies, especially React, right? Uh, so I wanted someone basically to set an expectation with you as well, so that there is no mismatch in terms of the expectation. So a person who is very much hands-on with the technology, who can guide the team, architect the UI, and build that app, and guide the team as well. So it is like 80 to 90% technical work. It's nothing to do with people management or leading a team. It's all about technically leading the team. So I hope that matches with your expectation.
Yes, and in agile methodology, agile process, it is what people supposed to do. Whatever you just said, you rightly said. Yes.
Okay, okay, cool. Not a problem. So let's quickly dive into the some technical questions, and then I'll sort of share that assignment with you. So to begin with, in React, you have both class components and functional components, right?
Yes.
So which one do you prefer and why?
So class component, mostly legacy projects are there where class components are working nowadays. People are opting for functional components, and they are easy to adapt, and they are more generic in the by nature. And whatever we could have achieved via class component, functional components are also serving the same purpose one way or other way. So I would prefer functional component, and React is also keeping aside the class components officially.
Okay, okay. Now, uh, in your current application that you're working on in your current company, you mentioned that it is in React, right? So, can you explain me the code architecture of that application? What are the different folders? How is the code set up? How are the components distributed? What is the hierarchy between the components? Different tools that you're using there?
If I talk about micro level things, so we are atom design pattern we were following, where atom, molecule, and organism were there along with the page and templates. So I hope you understand those things. So that was the directory structure we were following, along with the jest. 80% was the quality gates we were following. SonarQube was the code quality tool we were using to check if anything reviewer is missing. So SonarQube was integrated, and we were working in micro front end architecture as well, with the help of Webpack, and probably later on team will migrate to some different Vite or something. They may change it, but for now it was micro front end using a Webpack module federation plugin, where we were running multiple projects as a remote, and sharing the data, and lots of configuration like common dependencies we were passing as a shared asset to the host app, and host app was transmitting everything, broadcasting everything to the child apps. So that was the architecture we were following. It is again financial institution, so I will not comment much more on the banking side, but yeah, this is what I was doing.
Okay. Now, typically when we talk about front-end applications, the styling of the application is a very important aspect, right? Because they are customer-facing applications. So, what is your take on setting up styling components in an entire application? What should be the hierarchy? What are the best tools or the practices that you should follow around it?
So we were using MUI, Material UI, and
Mm-hmm.
it was not me, but I have done the similar work in previous projects, because I joined this project very late. So almost 12 sprints were passed on. So here they were using the Material UI, a wrapper they had created according to our needs, but very customized things we were using, and we were working with their components, the controls we were using. So those were the things. It was a package what we were actually installing. Instead of Material UI, we were working
Mm-hmm.
with our project,
Okay.
working with our themes, or working with our own in-house library.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me give you one scenario. Let's say you're building, say, a PFS, net banking application for some of your bank, uh, where a user can log in through a login page using his email ID and password. And upon successful authentication, the user is redirected to a dashboard page. Okay,
Mhm.
and from there, he can be redirected. He can navigate into anywhere in the application.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the user is, so this scenario has got two questions involved. So I'll first explain the scenario and then I'll come to the questions. So the user can navigate to any of the page that he wants post authentication. Now let's say he's on the accounts page and he was doing some operation. And after some time, he just minimized the browser or he left his desk. Okay. So now the first question is, how do we detect inactivity on a web page? And if that inactivity is, say, more than 2 minutes, I want to automatically log out the user from the application. This is a very typical common case scenario
Come
that you
again.
might see
Yes.
in almost every net banking application. So that's the first bit. And the second question is, where will you place this logic of yours from the question one, such that it will be applicable to all the routes that are available in your application? So irrespective of I'm on my settings page, transactions page, or on my account page, or cards page, if I'm inactive for more than 2 minutes, I should be locked out.
All right. Okay. Okay, so for that we need one landing page. Landing page must be due to inactivity you are logged out. That page must be there, and of course a user is logged in. Of course the conditional rendering must be there. The authenticated component we must create a HOC out of it, so that we created the actual component with the authenticated using authenticated tokens and all those things. We need to set it up, and that is fine. And as far as the this there's one idle property is there. I am forgetting the parent object. So idle we can check, and we need to set it up in microseconds. So for example, if 2 minutes is there, then it must be 12,000. Yeah, 12,000 microseconds must be there. We need to check if it is dot idle is equal to this, then we need to redirect, and we have to clear the cookies or the local storage wherever we have set up the auth token key. We need to remove that as well, redirect to that landing page, and once we do that, that's all. We need to do few configuration in the route file as well, so that if a user is not authenticated or the cookies are not there, so we need to check before login, like we do with the this router interceptor or router interceptor. We do write the logic. So with every request we share that token, and if that token is not there, again router file, the default thing must be the logged out landing page. So I hope it will clear the doubt.
Okay. 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 Now, typically, in React, you create a lot of components, right? And sometimes you tend to build a hierarchy of components, where you have a parent component and they have their own children.
Yes.
So, what is your take on passing data from parent to child and vice versa in terms of props?
So props actually do a re-rendering. So if parent receive or get some props, or parent have some props which are re-rendered, all the re-rendering will happen in the child apps as well. So we do create a memo, use memo, we do use, and memo as well. So both are again for the purpose of preventing the unnecessary rendering. And props drilling is there. Yes, you rightly said, we have one prop to do parent to child, child to child, and in order to avoid that, we do use Redux, or we are using Redux toolkit, better version of Redux. So we are creating the slicers rather than focusing on action and the reducers. So slicers are working for us, and they serve the same purpose, and it makes our work easy. So the centralized store is there, so we just need to focus on the store and manage the state.
Okay. Okay. Now, typically when you're working with a React application, you have got a single repository, right, to be hosted somewhere in GitHub, GitLab, or any other source control repositories. Now, typically when you deploy this code, it's the same code that gets deployed to dev, UAT, production. Right?
Yeah.
So, and every environment has got its own set of configuration settings. A very basic example would be the base URL of your backend API that you're calling. So each environment will have a different base URL. So how do you manage different sets of configuration, environmental settings in a single React code base?
So env file we create an env file for prod, env file for this dev, or in env file for qa, and we pass in package json those env file. So if a production build is supposed to build, then we will write, okay, this build colon prod, and then the reference of the env file. So env file is very handy. We do use it very very often.
Okay, okay. Now let me give you one more scenario. Let's say I want to build a component uh, which is a single card, okay, but that card will have multiple items displayed within itself. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, say let's assume that you're displaying weather information. You have a card which shows Pune weather information for starting from morning, evening, afternoon, evening, and night. Similarly, for Delhi, I have a card where I'll be creating items to show specific hour or time of the day, like morning, like that. So, if I have to create a component like this, what are your thoughts? How would you build this component? What would be the structure of the component?
So in that component, I need to pass the attributes in terms of props, and so that those props will be there, and we can read based on the input. So the same component can have different piece of data in attribute form, and we do replicate the card component like this always. And there we can add like city is equal to, and get the city based on the user inputs, whatever city he is asking for. And in the city we can again trigger the api if we need to fetch some data, and that will be a synchronous operation. And once it is updated, we can it depends then how we work on that, either use state or the state, or any other way. So state management will be part of it. That depends upon the architecture. And so based on the city, all I need the city name, and then rest of the things inside the component, other things, how to display in table, or how temperature, or whether the rain density, or something, whatever is there as
Okay.
humidity, we can put it there.
Okay. Now, can you give me one instance of a task or a feature that you have built in reactjs, which was really very complex? Uh, uh, what was it, and what was the implementation that you did to implement that? Something which was really complex, which you felt was really challenging for you?
Implementing micro front end was challenging. I still think that it is still challenging for me. It took me almost 2 months to implement or migrate the app from standalone apps to micro front end apps. And as I beginning of the interview said, that the webpack was used, although I tried with the wheat as well in recent time. And there, how the centralized router will work, how the single node module will work under the host app. The remote apps don't have those luxury anymore, and the centralized store to work with, those are the challenges I had faced. So day by day we gradually remove those. We did lots of talks how to resolve it, because nested routes were not permissible in either 6 or 5. Any version is not permitting us. So that was a challenge. So nested routes were missing, and of course if you are using redux, so a central store is there. So you don't have a store based on your applications, so all applications were pointing to it. So those were the challenges I had faced and fixed it.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me give you one more scenario. Say, let's take an example that we have an application which was built in, say, reactjs 16,
Mhm.
and now say we have React 18, which is the proper stable version available in the market, and the stakeholder and the product team comes up with a requirement saying that we want to now migrate from React 16 to React 18, and this is assigned to you as a spike story
Mhm.
because the migration is never simple. So it's been assigned to you as a spike. So being a tech lead or the most senior person in the team, how will you approach this migration and how will you try and achieve this? What would be thought process? How will you lay down the different steps and things?
Yeah, got it though. So if it is 16 and we are going to 18 or 18.2, that means in 16 it must be a class component, and we have to convert from class to functional component. We need to take care of all the scenarios. Let's say how the uh, mm, those lifecycle methods transform into the hooks. So that must have been taken care of, and how
Mhm.
the constructors are working in the class component. You need to look at it how we can implement in functional component. For that, like let's say for example, use effect we may use, so that in the very beginning of the loading how the components are loaded. So you need to check what is the substitute for that every event,
Mhm.
if it is functional component. So everything is there, you need to check. Along with that, you need to check other dependencies as well. It is not just about the react. If 18.2 is happening of 16, then I believe that the router must be 3 or 4 version must be running, forget about 5.
Mhm.
So we need
Mhm.
to migrate it to 5 or 6.
Mhm.
React dom router, react router dom, react dom router,
Mhm.
yes. So we need to check its compatibility as well, the better features we are getting, how, because now things are very much compact and complex. So we
Mhm.
need to
Mhm.
resolve plugin complexity as well, and their fallbacks or whatever transition we are going
Mhm.
to write. So it could be a flux instead of redux. So
Mhm.
these are few things I can recall right now, and
Okay.
package JSON is the key, and
Mhm.
we resolve it like this.
Okay. Okay. Now, whenever we talk about any front-end application interacting with the backend, and now nowadays since we are all cloud agnostic, right, where we go all big bang with cloud. So, what is your experience in authentication mechanisms that you have worked on from the front-end app? Say reactjs connecting to a backend. So what was the authentication mechanism that was allowing the user to log into a system? What was the sort of workflow? How was that taken care of? If you
Okay.
can explain that in details.
There are two type of authentications or token things we do. I'm forgetting the type of tokens we use. One is where token will be timeout and user will be logged out. One is a refresh token mechanism where token gets refreshed without knowing user that the token is getting refreshed behind the scene. So every time user if trigger a request from the older token, the request
Mhm.
goes with a new token and update its token as well. So this is how a refresh token and one more token. So token mechanism, couple of tokens I have worked with, and
Okay.
we need to consume that in front end as well. But we don't have to worry, because anyways we have to just trigger the token. It's now implementation from the backend. I have done those implementation in node.js with
Mhm.
mongodb using mongoose, and those things I know how it works. Yeah, so what was
Okay.
the question, sir?
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to know the mechanism. Like when you
Yeah,
log
yeah.
in, where do
Yeah.
you connect? How do you get the token? How it's getting authenticated on the backend side? What do you get as response? how do you manage refresh tokens and all that around that?
I hope I answered, but for a few things I wish to add. I like here interceptor will be used, a route interceptor, and in the header we centralize, we add the token with every request. It is not individual request basis process. So it is a one-time job we do, and that's all we do.
Okay, okay. Now, one more aspect of any front-end application is responsive UI, right? So whenever I render a web page on a laptop or a palm top or even on the web browser of a mobile, right, on Android or iOS, it needs to, properly align itself so that it's properly viewable and it's still able to, the user is still able to interact it with in a proper manner. So what is your take on setting up responsive UI? What's the strategy that
Yeah.
you are working on?
So there is one, either you can use any grid system, existing grid system, a 12 column layout or a 16 column layout, depending upon the kind of design we have. And the second one is using media queries, you can set it up your own grid layout. Of course, you need designs in terms of PDF or images or Figma or Zeppelin somewhere. You need the designs, and those components and design usually designers develop in such a way that your existing library, whether it's organization level library or something common public uses libraries like Bootstrap, is compatible with that. So if I say BTN4 is there, so there must be something corresponding to some library, and we do use those libraries. Of course, it is in both ways we can do. I can write my own library as well, or I can ask my team or myself that okay, the existing library is there, let's reuse it. The design is very much compatible, and we don't have to put too much effort on the writing new library.
Okay, cool. I just want to confirm if your email ID is okay, cool. So I might have just sent you an invite to Core Sandbox for the assignment so that you can, I'll just copy the invite URL and then just paste it here in the chat so that you'll be able to open it right away. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. The problem is Code Sandbox is not free now. You need to log in and it doesn't render if you haven't got a paid version. It doesn't allow you to save the code and render it. That's the reason I've created a workspace where I invite people for the assignment.
And that's all right.
Yeah.
It has good intelligence nowadays.
Yeah.
So lots of coding practices we don't follow. We just leave on tap. So
Yeah.
where shall I click?
Yeah. So just click on the create button at the right corner. Either the create plus create. Yeah, please click on that. Select create a sandbox. React. Yeah. Just give it some name that you would like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just give me a second. I'll just pull up the assignment for you. It's a very simple one.
Mm-hmm.
Paste it here in the chat box. Just one quick, before I explain that, can you just go back to the sandbox? We'll just check one thing, whether you're able to save some code that you're writing. Just write something over there and see if it is, just doing something. And try to move to a different file and see if it is.
It is
Okay.
working. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to update that editor, so that's the reason. Okay, cool. Let me walk you through the assignment. Very simple one. So what is needed is you just need to create a simple sign up form. The form should have a sign up header, which should be center line. Then the form will have a section which will have 3 labels, 3 text fields, and 1 submit button, as described in the point number 3. After you fill in the name, email, password in the text boxes and click on the submit button, this section from point 3 should get hidden, and the message from point number 4 should be displayed in its place, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And in that message, it says successfully registered with the following details. The name and email which you have feed in should be displayed over here. Okay, so very simple thing. And there are some CSS aspects that this entire form, if you look at the last thing, that the application content should not exceed 500 pixels, and everything within that application context should be center line on the page. So your max width will be 500 pixels. Success message should be center line. Submit button should be center line. The field labels should be above their corresponding text fields with some padding between them. So you have a label, and then just exactly below should be the text field. So that way you'll have to align them, and that's pretty much it. It's a very simple.
Okay, so right, I'm just kidding. I'm not using any routes here. But just
not required. It's simple form. You can just update the app.
Right, sir. React functional component default export. No.
Can you bring that entire content to the center?
This one?
Yep, and the thing that is on the left, the center of the box, the bigger box.
Align items, center. Justify content, center. No, justify the. Yeah, sorry. What was the last thing you said? The last requirement was.
Yeah, the name, text box, email, text box, password, text box, and submit button should appear in the center of this box, this big box.
Okay. All right. Margin. Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
And can you also align the other box that we have?
Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
And these one.
Yeah.
Okay. Some error is coming. Okay, div cannot appear as descendant of P. Okay, that we can fix.
Good evening, Silicon. Kindly proceed to P3 cafeteria as we are shortly commencing with Connect 2024. Looking forward to see you there.
CSS.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more than enough. Yep. Okay. Cool. So moving on to the next thing in terms of processes, the way you execute your project, right? In terms of agile. Now, definitely, you might be aware of all the ceremonies and all the processes that we follow around agile. Stand-up, sprint duration, stories, backlogs, grooming sessions, planning session, estimation session, demos, retrospective, everything. Now, whenever a story is created uh, and brought into the backlog and you start planning around it, what is the estimation technique that you use to estimate or come up with the efforts that a person will need to complete that user story? What's the estimation technique that you use?
So I work on poker as well, and
Mm-hmm.
poker, the T-shirt sizing.
Mm-hmm.
Poker is, I think, is the best thing you can do, and
Mm-hmm.
that thing allows you to how that whole team is thinking about the same story, and you just ask the numbers, and a consolidate number will be in your favor, and that most of the time works. And
Okay,
you come to know more about how user story people are looking at. I mean, someone is saying 5 pointers, why it is five, someone say two, why it is two, and let's counter to those. So a brainstorming session happens, and eventually we get the right number.
okay. So essentially that 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 13, 15, whatever you use are the story points, right?
Yeah.
And how much does one story point relate to? Is it 1 day, 1 hour, 1 week? What's the
uh,
factor that you guys use?
Not always. Sometimes we can correspond those things, but most of the times we go by the complexity. So a user story may be long but less complex. So it depends how you are looking at the points. So a 5 pointer can be a complex one, but a short one. But a 3 pointer may take longer than 5 pointer time. So those are based on the complexity. Sometimes it is based on the time as well, time complexity as well. So a 5 pointer is there. So normally like here, or in a whole sprint, a 2 week sprint may take 5 pointers. If a user is or a developer is completing 5 points, that is fine. We are good with those numbers. So yeah, it works on both ways.
Okay, okay. And do you have any knowledge on Azure Cloud by any chance?
So I have knowledge about AWS, but Azure I haven't worked. I never work on Azure.
Okay, okay. And in terms of team handling, in terms of being a tech lead, what was the max number of people have you dealt with, like in terms of giving them designs,
15.
guiding them, 1, 5, 15, right?
Yes.
And were you involved with each and everybody, or there were others who were also attached along with you
So
as
the
tech lead?
status call was there, where we were Scrum call daily. So and in retrospective meetings were there, refinements were there. So we were talking to each other. But if someone is facing some challenges related to the technical aspects or other things related to personal or professional ways.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me give you one last scenario in terms of the tech talk that we've been doing. Uh, let's say you have estimated a story and you have given, say, 4 story points, which is equivalent of 4 days of work. I'm just taking a hypothetical example.
Yeah.
Now, you started the work for the story on the day one when the sprint started, and on the fourth day, when you were supposed to complete the story, just before lunch, you came to know that there is an acceptance criteria which has got a problem. Now, this is a very commonplace scenario. Now, we are not interested in what is the problem around that acceptance criteria because there could be n number of factors or n number of reasons it could that could lead to a problem.
Mhm.
But our underlying thing is that you have come to a conclusion that because of that problem, you would need 2 more days worth of effort to complete that user story, and then
Mm.
you would not be able to complete it on that fourth day pre-launch, but you need 2 more days. Now, how will you manage this scenario with your Scrum Master in your product?
Look, if other teammates, if I can involve, because it is a teamwork, although the
Hmm.
user stories are assigned to individuals, and it does happen, we may need some contribution and ideas from other team members as well. It doesn't mean that you are lead, so you will not look at other team members as well. Maybe they have better thoughts and idea about it, and so we need to ask what is the optimum solution we can fetch. And it seems like 2 days to me for someone
Hmm.
who can fix in 20 minutes. So, or it is already done by some team members where I am not aware of. It's a code thing. So just trigger an email and ask for help. And if
Hmm.
nothing works, then it is a carry forward or spillover. And that is also a very common scenario. You take the thing. There are other scenarios. You can create subtasks, but those subtasks should done prior to the pick up the stories. I mean, starting the stories. Subtask will not be the optimum one on the last day. But yeah, these are the few options you have, limited options.
Okay. Okay. Cool. That's pretty much it from my side, Vineet. So what I'll do is, as part of the next steps, I'll just collate my feedback and pass it on to Shipra, and Shipra will get back to you with the next steps in the process. But before we conclude, there are a few things that I just need to confirm. I think Shipra might have already spoken to you about. So can you let me know your current CTC, your current company?